The morning light filtering through our bedroom curtains turned everything golden as I watched Marcus sleep, his phone face up on the nightstand still recording from last night. He'd been on a late call with his business partners, or so he said, speaking in rapid Portuguese that he assumed I couldn't understand. The red recording indicator blinked steadily in the dim room, a tiny beacon of truth he didn't know was capturing everything. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. I'm Isabela Santos. Though Marcus has always called me Bella, never bothering to learn that Isabela means something different, carries weight in my culture. For 3 years, I'd played the role he'd cast me in, the exotic Brazilian girlfriend who spoke charmingly broken English, who smiled and nodded when his family spoke Portuguese at dinner parties, who let them believe I was just another beautiful face from São Paulo who'd gotten lucky catching an American tech entrepreneur. The truth was more complex. I'd grown up in Belo Horizonte, daughter of 2 university professors who'd insisted I master 4 languages before I turned 16. Portuguese, English, Spanish, and French flowed through my childhood home like water. But when I met Marcus at that tech conference in Miami 3 years ago, something made me hesitate when he started showing off his Portuguese, making assumptions about my English proficiency. Maybe it was the way he simplified his words when talking to me, or how he'd translate things his mother said with a patronizing smile, as if I couldn't possibly understand the complex family dynamics being discussed right in front of me. So I'd made a choice that night in Miami. I'd let him believe what he wanted to believe. I'd speak English with a heavier accent than I actually had, miss a few idioms here and there, play the part of someone still learning. Before you judge me, understand this. In those 3 years, that choice had shown me everything. Every condescending conversation his mother had with his sister about Marcus's little Brazilian. Every business call where he discussed me like a trophy he'd acquired. Every moment they thought I couldn't understand became a window into who they really were. And last night, that window had shattered completely. I reached for the phone, my hand steady despite my racing heart. Marcus stirred slightly but didn't wake. His overnight bag sat packed by the door, ready for his business trip to Boston. Funny how business trips always seem to coincide with wedding planning discussions. The recording app showed 4 hours and 23 minutes of audio from last night. I'd heard enough through the bedroom door to know what I'd find, but I needed to hear it all. Every word, every laugh, every detail of the wedding he was planning without me. I slipped out of bed, grabbed my own phone and earbuds, and moved to the living room of our Tribeca apartment. The space Marcus had chosen, decorated with his preferences, filled with his things. I curled up in the leather chair by the window, the one that faced the building across the street where an elderly woman was already up, watering her plants. Normal morning routines continuing while my world prepared to implode, I pressed play. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Marcus's voice came through first, relaxed and jovial in a way I rarely heard. Mãe, você está aí? Mom, are you there? His mother's voice, sharp and clear. Sim, sua irmã também está na linha. Yes. Your sister is also on the line. Oi, Marcus. His sister Gabriella's voice, bright with excitement. Então, vamos falar sobre o casamento de verdade? So, shall we talk about the real wedding? O casamento de verdade. The real wedding. I paused the recording, my hands trembling now. The real wedding? As opposed to what? The fake one he'd been planning with me for the past 8 months. The one where we'd toured venues together, tasted cakes, argued over guest lists. I forced myself to breathe, to continue listening. Sim, precisamos finalizar os detalhes, Marcos replied. Yes, we need to finalize the details. O evento com a Bella é daqui a 2 meses, então temos que ter tudo pronto para depois. The event with Bella is in 2 months, so we need to have everything ready for after. The event with Bella. Not our wedding, not my marriage. The event. Like I was a business conference. A product launch. Something to get through. His mother's voice took on that particular tone I'd heard 100 times before. the one she used when discussing household staff or vacation plans. E você tem certeza que ela não entende nada? Seria desastre se ela descobrisse agora. And you're certain she doesn't understand anything? It would be a disaster if she found out now. Mãe, relaxa. Mom, relax. Marcus's laugh was easy, confident. A Bella mal consegue entender quando eu falo devagar. Ela sorri e concorda com tudo. É perfeita assim. Bella can barely understand when I speak slowly. She smiles and agrees with everything. She's perfect like that. Perfect like that. Perfect in my ignorance. Perfect in my assumed stupidity. I thought about all the times I'd smiled and nodded, playing my role. How Marcus would put his arm around me at his family gatherings, translating selectively, editing out the parts where his aunt called me a cazadora de fortunas, the gold digger. Where his uncle wondered aloud how long I'd stay interested once the money ran out. Where his mother discussed my clothes, my accent, my background with the same tone someone might use to evaluate a used car. I'd told myself I was gathering information, that I was being strategic, that knowing the truth about his family would help me navigate our future together. What a fool I'd been. The recording continued. Gabriela spoke next. Então me conta como vai ser. Você vai fazer a cerimônia com ela aqui em Nova York e depois a gente faz o casamento real em Portugal? So tell me, how's it gonna be? You'll do the ceremony with her here in New York, and then we do the real wedding in Portugal? Exatamente, Marcus confirmed. Exactly. A cerimônia aqui é só para manter as aparências. Para os sócios, os clientes. Todo mundo espera que eu seja casado, estável. A Bella é perfeita para isso. Bonita, simpática, não faz perguntas difíceis. The ceremony here is just to maintain appearances. For the partners, the clients. Everyone expects me to be married, stable. Bella is perfect for that. Pretty, pleasant. Doesn't ask difficult questions. My stomach churned. I paused the recording again, walked to the kitchen, poured myself water with shaking hands. Through the window, I could see Marcus's reflection in the bedroom mirror, still sleeping peacefully. Still unaware that his carefully constructed lies were unraveling, the water glass felt cold against my palm. I wanted to throw it, to scream, to march into that bedroom and destroy the illusion he'd built. But I'd played a long game for 3 years. I could play a little longer. I returned to the chair, pressed play. His mother was talking now, her voice taking on a practical tone. O prenuptial? Você conseguiu fazer ela assinar? And the prenup? Did you get her to sign? Claro, of course. Ela assinou tudo sem nem ler direito. Eu disse que era padrão, que era para proteger os dois. Ela confia em mim completamente. She signed everything without even reading properly. I told her it was standard, that it was to protect both of us. She trusts me completely. She trusts me completely. Past tense, Marcus. Past fucking tense. I remembered that day 3 months ago. Marcus had presented the prenup with such care, explaining that his lawyers insisted that it was just a formality, that it protected both of us equally. I'd read every word, of course. Every clause. Every stipulation. But I'd played my role, asked simple questions, signed with a trusting smile. The prenup was airtight. In case of divorce, I'd get almost nothing. The apartment was his. The cars were his. Even the engagement ring, a family heirloom, would return to his family. I'd signed away any claim to his business, his investments, his trust fund. At the time, I told myself it didn't matter. That I loved him, that marriage wasn't about money, that my own career as a graphic designer was flourishing, and I didn't need his wealth. Now I realized the prenup wasn't about protecting his assets in case we divorced. It was about ensuring I'd have no leverage when he was done with me. Gabriela's voice again. E a Patricia? Ela sabe sobre tudo isso? And Patricia. Does she know about all this, Patricia? The name landed like a punch. Marcus's voice softened in a way I'd never heard. A Patricia entende a situação. Ela sempre entendeu. Não é fácil para ela, mas ela sabe que é temporário. Que o casamento de verdade é com ela. Patricia understands the situation. She always understood. It's not easy for her, but she knows it's temporary. That the real wedding is with her. The real wedding is with her. I stopped the recording. Stood up, sat back down. My mind was racing, connecting dots I'd deliberately ignored. The business trips to Boston, where his college girlfriend lived. Patricia, the woman his mother constantly brought up, asking when I'd get to meet her, saying how much I'd like her. What good friends they'd remained. Patricia, who worked in his Boston office. Patricia, who he'd dated for 5 years before we met. Patricia, who came from the same privileged Portuguese-American background, who spoke the language perfectly, who understood the culture, the expectations, the unspoken rules of his world. Patricia, who would be his real wife, I was the placeholder. The pretty Brazilian trophy for the New York tech scene, where a gorgeous international girlfriend played well with clients and investors. But Patricia was the real future, the one his family approved of, the one who fit. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Luana. Coffee this morning? Need to tell you about the absolute disaster that was last night's date. I stared at the message. Luana, who'd warned me about Marcus from the start. Who'd said something felt off about how he treated me, how his family looked at me, how he never quite seemed to take my opinions seriously. I'd defended him, told her she was being paranoid. That cross-cultural relationships were just complicated. I texted back, can't this morning? Something came up. Tomorrow? I needed to hear the rest. Needed to understand the full scope of what I was dealing with. I pressed play again. His mother was laying out logistics. Então, o casamento aqui em Nova York será em junho. Pequeno, íntimo, só o necessário. E o casamento de verdade em Portugal será em setembro? So, the wedding here in New York will be in June. Small, intimate, just what's necessary. And the real wedding in Portugal will be in September? Isso mesmo. That's right. Marcus's voice carried a warmth I'd rarely heard directed at me. 3 meses depois, tempo suficiente para resolver as coisas com a Bela. O divórcio será rápido com o pré-nupcial que ela assinou. E aí sim, a cerimônia de verdade na quinta da família, com todos os nossos amigos e parentes. 3 months later. Enough time to resolve things with Bella. The divorce will be quick with the prenup she signed. And then yes, the real ceremony at the family estate, with all our friends and relatives. 3 months. He was planning to divorce me 3 months after our wedding, before we'd even celebrate our first anniversary. Gabriela laughed, that tinkling sound I'd always found grating. Você é terrível, Marcus. Mas admito, é genial. A Patrícia tem sido tão paciente. Ela merece isso. You're terrible, Marcus. But I admit it's genius. Patricia has been so patient. She deserves this. Ela merece tudo, Marcus agreed softly. She deserves everything. Eu não queria fazer isso, mas vocês sabem como é. O mercado aqui em Nova York, os investidores, eles querem ver estabilidade, querem ver alguém interessante, diferente. A Bella dá essa imagem, mas para o resto da vida, para ter filhos, construir uma família de verdade, isso é com a Patrícia. I didn't want to do this, but you all know how it is. The market here in New York, the investors, they want to see stability, they want to see someone interesting, different. Bella gives that image. But for the rest of life? To have children? Build a real family? That's with Patricia. I realized I was crying. Silent tears streaming down my face as I listened to the man I'd planned to marry, explain to his family why I was good enough for show, but not for keeps. Why I was perfect for his image, but not for his life. His mother's voice again. E ela realmente não suspeita de nada? Nem das viagens constantes do Marcus para Boston? And she really doesn't suspect anything? Not even Marcus's constant trips to Boston? Mãe, eu já disse. A Bella é... Marcus paused, searching for words. Ela é simples. Doce, mas simples. Ela acredita em tudo que eu digo. Quando eu digo que é trabalho, ela aceita. Quando eu digo que a Patrícia é só uma colega, ela acredita. É quase fácil demais, sabe? Mom, I already told you. Bella is... She's simple. Sweet but simple. She believes everything I tell her. When I say it's work, she accepts it. When I say Patricia is just a colleague, she believes it. It's almost too easy, you know? Too easy. Because I'd made it easy. Because I'd played the role of the trusting, naive girlfriend so perfectly that he'd never questioned it. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't destroying me. The conversation continued for another hour. They discussed venues in Portugal, guest lists that didn't include any of my friends or family, honeymoon plans to places Marcus and I had talked about visiting together. They laughed about how to handle the Bella situation, their exact words, with minimal fuss and maximum discretion. His mother worried about bad press. Gabriella worried about timing. Marcus assured them both that everything was under control, that I'd never see it coming, that the prenup ensured I couldn't cause problems even if I wanted to. E tem outra coisa, Marcus added near the end. And there's another thing. Eu posso ter complicado pouco. Eu meio que dei a entender para os sócios que a Bella vem de uma família rica no Brasil, que ela tem conexões, que o casamento é bom para negócios também. I might have complicated things a bit. I kind of implied to the partners that Bella comes from a rich family in Brazil, that she has connections, that the marriage is good for business too. His mother's sharp intake of breath. Marcus, por quê? Why? Porque tornava tudo mais palatável. Tornava ela mais do que apenas uma cara bonita. Os investidores gostam da ideia de expandir para o mercado brasileiro. Eles acham que ela pode abrir portas. Because it made everything more palatable, made her more than just a pretty face. The investors like the idea of expanding into the Brazilian market. They think she can open doors, so that's why his business partners had been so warm to me. Why they'd asked about my family, my connections, my background in international business. A fiction Marcus had apparently spun from whole cloth. They thought I was a valuable business asset. Another lie in the Tower of Lies. The recording finally ended with plans for Marcus to fly to Boston this weekend, to finalize details with Patricia. To look at wedding bands. To meet with the priest who would perform the real ceremony. I sat in the silence that followed, my mind eerily calm now. The crying had stopped. The shaking had stopped. In its place was something cold and clear and sharp. 3 years. 3 years of playing a role, of gathering information, of thinking I was the one with the secret. And all along, Marcus had been playing a longer game with higher stakes, but he'd made one critical mistake. One enormous, fatal error in judgment. He'd underestimated me. Marcus thought I was simple. Sweet but simple. He thought I understood nothing, questioned nothing, suspected nothing. He thought the language barrier, the cultural differences, the careful persona I'd crafted made me easy to manipulate. He'd built his entire plan on the foundation of my supposed ignorance. Time to show him what happens when the foundation crumbles. I looked at my phone. It was 7:47 a.m. Marcus would wake soon, shower, leave for his business trip to Boston. A trip I now knew was to finalize wedding plans with his real fiancé. I opened my laptop, created a new folder, titled it Evidence. I transferred the recording from his phone to my secure cloud storage, making 3 separate backups. Then I started a document, noting timestamps, transcribing key quotes, organizing everything with the systematic precision my professor parents had taught me. If Marcus wanted to play games, I'd show him how a real strategist operates. My phone was already in my hand, pulling up my contact list. But not Luana, not yet. I needed someone who understood both worlds, someone who could help me navigate what came next. I scrolled to a name I hadn't called in 6 months, Rafael Mendez, my cousin's husband, partner at one of New York's most prestigious law firms, Brazilian-American, fluent in both languages, specializing in international family law. We'd had dinner a few times, he and his wife and Marcus and me. Marcus had been his usual charming self, never knowing that Rafael saw right through him. The last time we'd met, Rafael had pulled me aside. Prima, he'd said in Portuguese, knowing Marcus was out of earshot. If you ever need anything at all, you call me, day or night. Understood? I'd laughed it off then. Now I understood he'd been trying to warn me. It was too early to call. Instead, I sent a text. Rafael, it's Isabela. I need your help. It's urgent. Can we meet today? And please don't mention this to anyone, especially not Marcus. The reply came within minutes. My office. 10 a.m., I'll clear my schedule. I looked at the bedroom door. Marcus would be up soon, expecting his sweet, simple Bella to make him coffee, to kiss him goodbye, to wave as he left for Boston and his real life. I'd give him that. One more performance. The best one yet, because while he was in Boston planning his real wedding, I'd be in New York planning his real downfall. I heard movement from the bedroom. Marcus was waking up. I quickly closed my laptop, wiped my eyes, arranged my face into the expression he expected. Loving, trusting, clueless. Time for the show to begin. I stood, smoothed my clothes, and headed to the kitchen to start the coffee. Through the window, the elderly woman across the street had finished watering her plants and was settling into her chair with a book. Normal morning routine, except nothing would be normal again. Marcus emerged 20 minutes later, hair wet from the shower, dressed in the casual, expensive style he favored for travel. He smiled when he saw me, that same smile I'd fallen for 3 years ago in Miami, before I knew what it concealed. Bom dia, meu amor, he said, his Portuguese deliberately slow and simple. Good morning, my love. You're up early. I handed him coffee, let my accent thicken slightly. I want to make you breakfast. Before you trip, baby, before your trip. He corrected my English with that patient tone he used, the one that used to seem sweet and now made my skin crawl. But that's sweet. I don't have much time, though. Early flight. I make fast. I smiled, moving to the stove. Eggs, yes? Perfect. He kissed my forehead, and I fought the urge to flinch. His phone sat on the counter, the one that held last night's recording. He'd check it eventually, see the recording app had been running all night, but by then it wouldn't matter. As I cooked, Marcus scrolled through his phone, checking messages. Probably texting Patricia, planning their future while I stood 3 feet away, playing the devoted girlfriend making him breakfast. Oh, he said suddenly, I meant to tell you. My mom called last night. She's so excited about the wedding. She wants to know if you need any help with planning. The audacity. The sheer fucking audacity. I turned, spatula in hand, smile in place. That is nice. She is very kind. She really likes you, you know. My whole family does. I thought of their voices on the recording. The way they discussed me like a problem to be managed. A prop in Marcus's business theater. A temporary inconvenience before the real wedding with the right woman. I am lucky, I said softly. Your family is wonderful, Marcus beamed, completely buying the performance. They really are. And hey, after we're married, maybe we can spend more time in Boston. My mom keeps asking when you'll visit more often. Boston, where Patricia lived, where they were planning their real wedding. He was already laying groundwork, preparing me for more time in the city where his double life would be easier to maintain. The eggs were done. I plated them carefully, added toast, fresh fruit, poured orange juice. The perfect domestic scene. The perfect simple Brazilian girlfriend taking care of her successful American fiancé. Marcus ate quickly, checking his watch. This is great, baby. Really great. But I should get going. He stood, grabbed his overnight bag. I walked him to the door, rising on my toes to kiss his cheek. He held me close for a moment, and I wondered if he felt any guilt at all. If some part of him recognized the enormity of what he was doing. I'll miss you, I said, making my voice small and sweet. I'll miss you too. It's just a couple days. Business stuff. You know how it is. I know. I touched his face, held his eyes. You work so hard for us. For our future. Something flickered across his face. Maybe guilt. Maybe just annoyance that his sweet, simple girlfriend was making him late. I love you, he said, the words automatic, empty. You também te amo, I replied. I love you too. The Portuguese he understood, the simple phrase he'd taught me in our early days. He smiled, kissed me once more, and left. I stood at the door, listening to his footsteps fade down the hallway, hearing the elevator ding. Then I counted to 60. Counted to 60 again. Made sure he was really gone. Then I grabbed my laptop and phone and started making calls. Raphael first. confirming our meeting, asking him to bring one of his associates, someone who specialized in prenuptial agreements. Then Luana. Remember how you said you had a bad feeling about Marcus? Always, why? What happened? Can you come over now? I need your help with something. On my way. Then my parents in Belo Horizonte. I'd told them so little about Marcus, keeping that part of my life separate, some instinct warning me even then. My father answered, his voice warm with surprise at the early call. Pi, I said, my voice finally cracking. I need to tell you something, and I need your help. For the next hour, I told them everything, not just about last night's recording, but about the 3 years of deception. The role I'd played, the role Marcus had cast me in, the web of lies we'd both been spinning, his malicious, mine protective, my mother, ever practical. What do you need? Money? A place to stay? Not yet, but maybe soon. Right now I need to understand my options. Raphael is helping with the legal side, but I need to think strategically. Like you taught me. My father, the chess player, the academic who'd spent his career outmaneuvering university politics. First, we gather all information. Every piece. Then we identify what he values most. Then we determine the most effective pressure points. You understand? Yes. Good. You're your mother's daughter. You're stronger than he knows. Use that. By the time Luana arrived, I had a plan forming. Not complete, not perfect, but a direction. A strategy. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. Tell me everything. So I did. I played her the recording, watched her face cycle through shock, anger, disgust. When it finished, she sat in silence for a long moment. Then, we destroy him. Not destroy, I corrected. That's too simple. Too quick. Then what? I thought about the past 3 years. About every time I'd smiled through their condescension, every translated conversation I'd pretended not to understand, every moment of playing dumb while I gathered information. We make him face exactly what he's done. We make him realize he underestimated me. We make him watch as everything he planned falls apart. Luana smiled, sharp and fierce. I like this plan. What do you need? For now, help organizing evidence. I have the recording, but I need more. His computer, his phone records, his calendar. Every trip to Boston, every lie he's told, every business meeting where he's used me as a prop. I need documentation of everything. His computer is here? In the office. And I know his passwords. Another benefit of playing the simple girlfriend. Marcus never bothered securing anything around me. Never imagined I might be paying attention. We spent the next hour going through his digital life. Emails with Patricia, sweet and intimate. Calendar entries for Boston trips, often overlapping with times he'd told me he was elsewhere. Text messages to his mother, discussing the Bella situation with increasing frequency as our wedding approached. Financial records showing payments to venues in Portugal, deposits for catering, photographer contracts, all for a September wedding, 3 months after ours. This is insane, Luana muttered, photographing everything with her phone. How did you not know? Because I was too busy playing my own game, I admitted. Too focused on what I was hiding to see what he was hiding. At 9:30, I changed into professional clothes. Sleek black dress, heels, minimal jewelry. I looked at myself in the mirror, letting the mask of simple, sweet Bella fall away. The woman looking back was harder, sharper, ready. Raphael's office is on 50th, I told Luana. Come with me? Obviously. You think I'm missing this? The law office was all glass and steel. Money and power made architectural. Raphael met us in the lobby himself, his face serious. Isabela. He kissed both my cheeks, then studied my face. Are you okay? No, but I will be. In his corner office overlooking Manhattan, I laid it all out. The recording, the emails, the financial documents, the pattern of lies. Raphael listened with the focused intensity of a prosecutor building a case. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Okay, let's talk about your options. I want out of the marriage, obviously, but I also want him to face consequences. Real ones. The prenup is going to be an issue, Raphael's associate, a sharp woman named Jennifer, noted. But there might be grounds to challenge it. If we can prove he entered into the agreement under false pretenses, that he was planning the fraud from the beginning? Fraud? I asked. Marriage fraud, Raphael explained. If he's marrying you purely for business purposes, with no intention of maintaining the marriage, that's fraud. Especially if he's been lying to business partners about your family's wealth and connections. Jennifer was already typing notes. We'd need to prove intent. But this recording helps. The emails help. The fact that he has another wedding planned helps tremendously. What about criminal charges? Luana asked. Raphael shook his head. Unlikely. Marriage fraud is more civil than criminal unless immigration is involved. But we can make this very painful for him professionally. If his business partners find out he's been lying about Isabela's connections, if his investors discover he's been using his personal life to manipulate business relationships, he'll lose everything, I said softly. Potentially. But Isabela, you need to be certain. Once we start this, there's no going back. It will get messy. His family will fight. Patricia might be pulled into it. Your own reputation could take hits. I thought about the woman across the street, peaceful with her plants and her book. About normal lives, simple lives. Lives without the weight of grand betrayals and elaborate revenge schemes. Then I thought about Marcus's voice on that recording. She's simple. Sweet but simple. I'm certain, I said. What's the first step? Raphael smiled, predatory and sharp. The first step is we prepare. We document everything. We build an airtight case. We identify pressure points. Then, when we're ready, we strike. How long will that take? Your wedding is in 2 months? 8 weeks. June 15th. Perfect. That gives us time. We'll need access to his finances, his business communications, everything. Can you get that? I thought about the simple, trusting girlfriend Marcus left behind in the apartment. The one who had full access to his home office, his personal files, his passwords. Yes, I said. I can get anything you need. Good. Then here's what we're going to do. For the next 2 hours, we planned. Every step, every contingency, every possible reaction from Marcus and his family. By the time we finished, my head was spinning, but my resolve was steel. As Luana and I left the office, my phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Landed safe. Miss you already. Dinner tonight with boring business people. Wish you were here to make it interesting. I showed Luana the message. She made a disgusted sound. What are you going to reply? I thought for a moment, then typed, Miss you too. Have fun at dinner. Can't wait until you're home and we can work on wedding plans together. Luana watched me send it. You're scary, you know that? I learned from the best, I replied, thinking of my father's chess games, my mother's academic politics, and Marcus's own elaborate deception. We walked back to the apartment in silence. The sunny morning had given way to clouds, the city gray and cold despite it being late spring. Appropriate weather for the death of a relationship, for the birth of something harder and more focused. Back home, I made coffee, opened my laptop, and started working. There was so much to do, so much to organize, so much to prepare. My phone buzzed again. This time a call. Marcus's mother. I let it go to voicemail, listened afterward to her cheerful message asking about wedding flowers and whether I preferred roses or peonies. She spoke in Portuguese, slowly and clearly, the way you'd speak to a child or someone who didn't quite understand. Rosas ou peonias, querida? Qual você prefere? Roses or peonies, dear? Which do you prefer? I deleted the message without responding. There would be time to deal with Marcus's family later. For now, I had a wedding to plan. 2 weddings, actually. The fake one Marcus thought was proceeding according to plan, and the real one, the one where he'd discover exactly who he'd underestimated. The elderly woman across the street was back at her window, looking out at the city. I wondered what she'd lived through, what battles she'd fought, what betrayals she'd survived. Her face was peaceful, content. Someday, I thought, I'll have that peace. That contentment. But not today. Today, I had work to do. I opened a new document, titled it Timeline, and began mapping out the next 8 weeks. Every step, every revelation, every perfectly timed move. Marcus thought he was playing chess. He thought he'd set up the board, positioned all the pieces, and all that remained was the inevitable checkmate against his simple, trusting opponent. He didn't realize the game had just begun, and his opponent had spent 3 years studying his every move. Time to show him what a real strategist could do. Outside, the clouds broke apart and sunlight streamed through the window. I smiled, took a sip of coffee, and got to work. After all, I had a real wedding to ruin. The first week after discovering Marcus's betrayal passed in a strange duality. On the surface, I remained the sweet, simple Bella, making breakfast, asking about his day in carefully broken English, smiling when he corrected my grammar. But underneath, I was systematically dismantling his entire world, one document at a time. Raphael had given me a secure cloud account, military-grade encryption, accessible only through passwords and biometric verification. Every night after Marcus fell asleep, I'd slip into his office and methodically photograph everything. Bank statements showing wire transfers to Portuguese vendors, emails with Patricia discussing color schemes and honeymoon destinations, text exchanges with his mother about keeping me in the dark until after the New York ceremony. The most damning evidence came from his laptop's browser history, which he'd never bothered clearing because why would simple Bella know how to check such things? Hours of research into quickie divorces, searches for fastest way to end marriage New York, and bookmarked articles about prenuptial agreement enforcement. He'd been planning this for over a year. Long before he proposed to me on that beach in Tulum, he'd already been laying groundwork for my disposal. Jesus Christ, Jennifer muttered during our second meeting at Raphael's office. She was scrolling through the latest batch of evidence I'd delivered. He's got a spreadsheet, an actual spreadsheet tracking timeline milestones. Proposed to be, set NY wedding date, file divorce papers, marry P in Portugal. B and P, I said quietly. He couldn't even be bothered to use our full names. Raphael leaned forward, his expression intense. This is good, Isabela. This is very good. The premeditation, the systematic deception, the fraud regarding your business connections. We can use all of this. But I need to ask, what's your endgame? What do you actually want? I'd been thinking about that question for days. At first, I'd wanted simple revenge, to humiliate him the way he'd planned to humiliate me, to destroy his reputation, to make him suffer. But as I dug deeper into his deception, as I watched him lie to my face every single day, I realized I wanted something more complete. I want him to lose everything he thinks makes him valuable, I said slowly. His business reputation, his social standing, his family's approval. I want his partners to know he lied about me and my connections. I want Patricia to know she was complicit in fraud. I want his mother to watch her perfect son's perfect plan explode in his face. And the prenup? Jennifer asked. I want it voided. Every clause. I want him to pay for what he's done. Raphael nodded slowly. That's ambitious. But with this evidence, I think we can make it happen. The key is timing. We need to wait until he's completely committed, until there's no easy way out. The wedding day, I said. We do it at the wedding. Luana, who'd been quietly taking notes, looked up sharply. That's brutal. He was going to marry me knowing he'd divorce me 90 days later, I replied. He was going to let me call him my husband, introduce him to my family, build a life together, all while planning his real wedding with another woman. Yes, it's brutal. That's the point. Over the next 3 weeks, I played my role perfectly while building my case. Marcus had no idea that his simple girlfriend was spending her days in strategy sessions with lawyers, documenting every lie, tracing every dollar he'd spent on his secret Portuguese wedding. The hardest part was the nights. Lying next to him, feeling his arm around me, listening to him sleep peacefully while I stared at the ceiling, mind racing. Sometimes he'd pull me close, murmur my name, and I'd wonder if any part of him actually cared. If somewhere under the calculating sociopath was a person capable of genuine feeling, then I'd remember his voice on that recording. She's perfect like that. Perfect in my ignorance. Perfect in my usefulness. Perfect until I wasn't needed anymore. One evening, about 4 weeks before the wedding, Marcus's mother called while he was in the shower. I could hear the water running, knew I had at least 10 minutes. Olá, Senhora Morrison, I answered, keeping my accent thick. Marcus está no banho. Quer que eu peça para ele ligar de volta? Hello, Mrs. Morrison. Marcus is in the shower. Do you want me to ask him to call you back? There was a pause. She'd clearly expected to reach Marcus, not me. Oh, sim, obrigada, Bella. Mas já que você atendeu, eu queria perguntar sobre o buquê. Você decidiu? Oh, yes, thank you, Bella. But since you answered, I wanted to ask about the bouquet. Have you decided? The bouquet? For the fake wedding. The prop wedding. The business arrangement wedding that would last exactly 90 days before Marcus filed for divorce. Ainda estou pensando, I replied carefully. I'm still thinking. É difícil decidir. Sim, eu entendo. Yes, I understand. Then, as if she couldn't help herself, o Marcos me disse que você está muito animada. Que você mal pode esperar para ser parte da família. Marcus told me you're very excited, that you can hardly wait to be part of the family. The cruelty of it stole my breath. Here was his mother, knowing everything, playing along with the charade, asking me about bouquets for a wedding that was designed to fail. Sim, I managed. Eu estou muito feliz. Yes, I'm very happy. Bom, e você não precisa se preocupar com nada, querida. Tudo vai ser exatamente como planejado. Good, and you don't need to worry about anything, dear. Everything will be exactly as planned. The emphasis on those last words. The subtle malice. She knew I didn't understand, thought she was being clever, enjoying her private joke at my expense. Obrigada, I said softly. Thank you. Você é muito gentil. You are very kind. After we hung up, I sat holding the phone, shaking with rage. It wasn't just Marcus. His entire family was in on it, complicit in the deception, actively participating in my humiliation. Good. That made what came next easier. When Marcus emerged from the shower, towel around his waist, I was composed again. Your mother called. She wants to know about the bouquet. Oh, yeah? He kissed my forehead. What did you tell her? That I'm still deciding. There are so many beautiful options. You could do roses. Classic. Pretty. Like you. He said it so easily, so automatically. A compliment designed to placate, to maintain the status quo. Maybe, I agreed, scrolling through my phone where I'd just sent Raphael a recording of his mother's call. Or maybe something more unique, something no one expects. Marcus laughed, already distracted by his own phone. That's my Bella, always full of surprises. If only he knew. The next breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Marcus's business partner, David Chen, reached out directly to me via LinkedIn. Unusual, since Marcus typically controlled all my interactions with his professional circle. Isabella, I hope this isn't inappropriate, but I wanted to discuss something with you privately. Would you have time for coffee this week? I showed the message to Raphael during our next meeting. Is this a trap? Could be, or... Raphael pulled up David's profile. He's been with Marcus for 5 years, since they founded the company. Major investor. If Marcus has been lying about your family's business connections, David would have a vested interest in knowing the truth. You think Marcus told him about my supposed wealth? I think Marcus has been selling David a story about Brazilian market expansion and your role in facilitating it. If David's starting to ask questions... I met David 3 days later at a coffee shop in Midtown, far from Marcus's usual haunts. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with tired eyes and the harried look of someone carrying too many responsibilities. Thank you for meeting me, he began, stirring his coffee nervously. I wasn't sure if you'd come. Of course. Is everything okay? That's what I'm trying to figure out. He met my eyes. Isabella, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Your family's business connections in Brazil, the manufacturing contacts, the distribution networks Marcus has been telling investors about, are they real? The moment of truth. I could maintain Marcus's lie, protect his business interests, play the good fiancé. Or I could start burning it all down. I think, I said carefully, that you should tell me exactly what Marcus has told you, and then I'll tell you the truth. What followed was illuminating. According to David, Marcus had been using my supposed family connections as a cornerstone of their business expansion plans. He'd told investors that my father owned manufacturing plants in Minas Gerais, that my mother had government contracts, that I was essentially an heiress to a Brazilian industrial fortune. He's been pitching a whole South American expansion based on these connections, David said, his voice tight. We've taken on debt, made promises to investors. But when I started asking for specific contacts, for meetings with your family, Marcus kept putting me off, said the timing wasn't right, that Brazilian business culture required patience. My father is a university professor, I said quietly. My mother is a research scientist. They're comfortable, but they're not wealthy industrialists. They have no manufacturing contacts, no government contracts, no business empire. David's face went white. Jesus Christ. So Marcus has been lying to everyone? The investors, the board, me? It appears so. Do you know why? Why would he do this? I thought about the recording. About Marcus explaining how he'd embellished my background to make me seem like more than just a pretty face. How he'd turned me into a business asset to justify our relationship to his partners. I think, I said slowly, that Marcus tells people what they want to hear. And if what they want to hear is that his Brazilian fiancé comes with lucrative business connections, then that's the story he tells. David was quiet for a long moment. We're announcing the South American expansion next month. Right before your wedding, actually. Marcus insisted on the timing. Said it would be perfect PR. The wedding, the expansion, the whole Brazilian connection story. That would be a mistake, I said carefully. Because the connections don't exist? Because the wedding might not happen. David's head snapped up. What? I'd already decided to trust him. The enemy of my enemy and all that. Plus, if Marcus's business partners turned against him, it would accelerate everything. I need you to promise that what I'm about to tell you stays between us until I say otherwise. Can you do that? Isabela, if Marcus has been defrauding investors, can you promise? He nodded slowly. Yes, you have my word. So I told him. Not everything, but enough. About overhearing conversations in Portuguese that Marcus assumed I couldn't understand. About discovering his real wedding plans. About the systematic deception, the prenup designed to leave me with nothing, the 90-day timeline before divorce. When I finished, David sat back, looking like he'd been punched. He's been playing everyone. All of us. Yes? What are you going to do? That depends. If the South American expansion announcement goes forward, based on connections that don't exist, you and your other partners could face serious consequences. Fraud charges, investor lawsuits. So we need to cancel the announcement. That would be wise. But if you cancel it, Marcus will want to know why. He'll suspect something. David's jaw tightened. Let him suspect. If what you're telling me is true, I need to protect myself and the other investors. Marcus can deal with the fallout. We talked for another hour, David asking questions, me providing answers and evidence. Just enough to prove I wasn't lying, not enough to show the full extent of what I knew. By the time we parted, David was already on his phone, calling lawyers, preparing to extract himself from Marcus's web of lies. That evening, Marcus came home agitated. Something's wrong with David. He's suddenly asking all these questions about the Brazilian expansion, wanting documentation, demanding meetings with your family. My family? I kept my voice light, confused. Why? I don't know. He's being weird. Marcus paced the living room, his usual confidence shaken. Did you talk to him recently? Me? No, why would I talk to David? No reason. It's just... He stopped, studied my face. For the first time in our relationship, I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. You'd tell me if something was wrong, right? Of course. I touched his arm, let concern fill my voice. Marcus, what is wrong? You seem worried. It's nothing. Just business stress. But he kept watching me, something uncertain in his expression. The wedding's only a few weeks away. I guess I'm just feeling the pressure. We can postpone if you need— No. He said it too quickly, too sharply. No, the wedding happens on schedule. We've already sent invitations, made deposits. Everything is set. Everything is set. For the fake wedding, the business wedding, the 90-day marriage before the real one with Patricia. Okay, I said softly. Whatever you think is best. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression shifted. Softer, more genuine. A text from Patricia, I realized. The woman he actually wanted to marry. I need to take this, he said, already moving toward his office. Conference call. At 11 p.m. Right. After he closed the office door, I texted Raphael. David Chen is on board. Marcus's business expansion is about to implode. How soon can we accelerate our timeline? The response came quickly. How soon can you be ready? I looked at the calendar on my phone. June 15th, 4 weeks away. 4 weeks of playing dumb, playing nice, playing the role Marcus had cast me in. I can be ready tomorrow, I texted back. But I want to wait. I want him to sweat. Raphael's response was a simple thumbs up. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Marcus's world begin to crack. David had clearly spoken to the other partners. Suddenly, Marcus was in meetings all day, coming home tense and angry. The South American expansion announcement was delayed pending further due diligence. Investors were asking questions. The board wanted documentation, and Marcus had nothing to give them, because it had all been lies built on lies. I don't understand what's happening, he complained one night, loosening his tie with sharp, frustrated movements. Everything was perfect. Everything was on track. And now, suddenly, everyone's questioning everything. Maybe they are just being careful, I suggested, using the simple sentence structure he expected from me. Big expansion is scary, yes? You don't understand business, Bella. He said it dismissively, already reaching for his phone. This is more than careful. This is— Someone's been talking. Someone's undermining me. He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw it again. That flicker of doubt, of suspicion. Your English is better, he said slowly. My heart stopped. What? Your English? It's better than it used to be. You're using more complex sentences. I'd gotten careless, let the mask slip. Time to reinforce it. Oh, I have been practicing. With Luana, she helps me. I want to be better for the wedding, for your family. The suspicion in his eyes faded slightly. That's good. That's really sweet, actually. He kissed my forehead, but there was something mechanical about it. I'm glad you're trying to improve, condescending to the end. Even now, suspecting something might be wrong, he couldn't imagine that I was the threat. That sweet, simple Bella could be the architect of his unraveling world. That night, after Marcus finally fell asleep, exhausted from another day of damage control at work, I made a decision. Waiting for the wedding day was too risky. He was getting suspicious, asking questions, looking at me differently. If I pushed him much further, he might cancel everything, run to Patricia, restructure his plans. I texted Raphael at 2 a.m. Change of plans. We need to move faster. Can we meet tomorrow? The response came at 6 a.m. My office. 9 a.m. Bring everything. I extracted myself from Marcus's arm, showered, dressed in my most professional outfit. When Marcus woke, I had coffee ready and a story prepared. I have meeting today, I told him. With wedding planner. Final details. Oh, right. He barely looked up from his phone. Do you need money? Always about money. Always reducing everything to transactions. No, I have enough. Thank you. At Raphael's office, I laid out my new timeline. 2 weeks. I want to do it 2 weeks before the wedding. Give him just enough time to panic, but not enough to fix anything. That's aggressive, Jennifer noted. But it could work. Hit him with everything at once. The business fraud, the marriage fraud, the evidence of his Portugal wedding. He won't have time to mount a defense. What about Patricia? Raphael asked. She's complicit in this too. I've been thinking about that. I pulled up photos I'd found on Marcus's laptop. Patricia in a wedding dress, clearly at a fitting. Marcus had been there, had taken the photos, had sent them to his mother with the caption, "Can't wait for the real thing." Patricia thinks she's the victim here, I continued. The patient girlfriend who waited while her boyfriend did what he had to do for business. We need to show her the truth, that Marcus has been using both of us, that she's as much a prop in his game as I am. You want to turn her against him, Luana said, understanding dawning. Make her realize she's not special, she's just convenient. Exactly. When Marcus's world falls apart, I want him to have no one. No business partners, no family support, no Patricia waiting in the wings. Raphael leaned back, a slow smile spreading across his face. You're ruthless. I like it. I learned from the best, I replied, thinking of Marcus's careful planning, his systematic deception. The student is ready to surpass the teacher. We spent the rest of the day refining the plan. In 2 weeks, we'd release everything simultaneously. The evidence would go to Marcus's business partners, showing the extent of his lies about my family's connections. His mother would receive documentation of his fraud, forcing her to choose between supporting her son and protecting the family reputation. Patricia would get copies of everything proving Marcus had never intended to stay married to me, along with evidence that he'd been lying to her too, making promises he couldn't keep, using her as a backup plan. And Marcus? Marcus would get a front row seat to watch it all burn. One question, Jennifer said as we wrapped up. The wedding. Are you actually going to go through with it? I thought about walking down the aisle, looking at Marcus's face, knowing he thought he was winning, that his plan was working perfectly. No, I said finally. We expose him the week before. Let him explain to his guests why the wedding is canceled. Let him stand there with his fake perfect life in ruins. As I left Raphael's office, my phone buzzed. Marcus, where are you? I need to talk to you. It's important. My blood ran cold. Had he found something? Discovered what I was planning? I called him back, keeping my voice normal. I am still with wedding planner. What is wrong? Nothing's wrong. He paused. I want to take you to dinner tonight. Somewhere nice. Just us. Okay, that sounds nice. Good. I'll make a reservation. Bella, Another pause. I love you. You know that, right? The words felt like ash. I love you too. After we hung up, Luana looked at me with concern. Why would he suddenly want a romantic dinner? I don't know, I admitted. But I don't like it. That evening, as I dressed for dinner, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Marcus was pacing the apartment, checking his phone constantly, his usual swagger replaced by something I'd never seen before. Uncertainty. At the restaurant? Expensive? Intimate. The kind of place you go for special occasions. He barely touched his food. I watched him across the table, this man I'd once loved, this stranger who'd planned to use and discard me. Bella, he began, then stopped. Started again. I need to tell you something. My heart hammered. This was it. He'd found out somehow. He knew. What is it? I kept my voice gentle, concerned. He looked at me, really looked, and I saw something crack in his expression. I'm scared. I'm scared I'm losing everything. The business is falling apart. My partners don't trust me, and I feel like I'm standing on sand and everything's shifting under my feet. Not what I expected. Not at all. You are not losing everything, I said softly, playing my role. You have me. We have each other. He laughed, bitter and sharp. Do we? Do I really have you, Bella? Or have I been so busy with work, with planning for the future that I've forgotten to notice what's right in front of me? I didn't know what to say. This vulnerability felt real, and it threw me off balance. I'm here, I finally said. I am right here. For now, he whispered. But what about after? What about when... He stopped himself, but I knew what he'd almost said. What about when I divorce you? What about when this is over? We finished dinner in near silence. As we walked home through the warm June evening, Marcus took my hand, held it tight like he was afraid I'd disappear, and I realized something that made everything more complicated. Some part of Marcus, buried deep under the lies and manipulation, might actually have feelings for me. Real ones, inconvenient ones. It didn't matter. It couldn't matter, because in 2 weeks I was going to destroy him anyway. Back at the apartment, Marcus pulled me close. "Stay with me," he said. "Whatever happens with the business, whatever comes next, promise you'll stay." I looked up at him, this man who'd planned to use me for 90 days and throw me away, who'd lied to me, to his partners, to everyone, who'd built his whole world on deception. "I promise." I lied. "I'm not going anywhere," and I wasn't lying about that part. I wasn't going anywhere, not until I'd watched his world burn. The final week arrived with the precision of a countdown. I had everything ready, evidence organized, lawyers briefed, targets identified. Marcus had no idea that every affectionate gesture, every worried conversation about his crumbling business, was happening in the shadow of his imminent destruction. On Monday morning, exactly 7 days before our scheduled wedding, I woke before dawn. Marcus slept beside me, peaceful and unaware. I watched him for a moment, this man who'd planned to use me for 90 days, wondering if that flicker of genuine feeling I'd seen at dinner had been real or just another manipulation. It didn't matter anymore. At 9 a.m., Raphael pressed send on emails that would detonate Marcus's carefully constructed life. To his business partners, complete documentation of his lies about my family's connections, proof of fraud that would expose them all to investor lawsuits. To his mother, evidence of the Portugal wedding, forcing her to choose between her son's deception and her family's reputation. To Patricia, everything. The recording, the timeline, the 90-day divorce plan. Proof that she wasn't his real love, but just another convenient piece in his game. I was in a coffee shop 3 blocks from our apartment when Marcus called. His voice was strangled, barely recognizable. "Bella, where are you? Please come home. I'm having coffee with Luana. What's wrong?" "Everything. Everything is wrong. Just, please." I found him in our living room, surrounded by his shattered world. His phone kept buzzing with calls he wasn't answering. His laptop displayed email after email from partners, lawyers, his mother. "Did you do this?" He looked at me with eyes full of betrayal and dawning horror. How long have you known?" I let the mask fall away completely. When I spoke, my English was perfect, accentless, the voice of someone who'd understood every word for 3 years. "Since the night you recorded yourself planning my disposal. Since you and your mother discussed the real wedding in Portuguese, assuming I was too simple to understand." He stumbled backward. "You speak Portuguese?" "You've always spoken Portuguese, fluently. 4 languages, actually. My parents are professors, Marcus. Not industrialists. Just brilliant academics who raised a daughter smart enough to recognize a predator when she met one. He looked broken, lost. "I did have feelings for you, real ones. That night at dinner was too late. You don't get to develop a conscience after planning someone's destruction for over a year." I pulled out my phone, showed him the spreadsheet he'd made. "Proposed to be. Filed divorce papers. I wasn't even worth typing out my full name." "What happens now?" "Now? Your business partners are filing fraud charges. Your mother is disavowing you to protect the family name. And Patricia? She sent me a message an hour ago. Apparently, she's not interested in being your backup plan anymore. The prenup is void. Fraud invalidates contracts, Marcus. My lawyers made sure of that." I picked up my already packed bag from behind the couch. "You'll be hearing from them about asset division. Turns out when you defraud someone into marriage, they're entitled to quite a bit in compensation." "Where will you go?" I smiled, thinking of my parents waiting in Belo Horizonte, of Luana's spare room, of Raphael's job offer at his firm where my strategic mind and multilingual skills would be appreciated. "Somewhere you underestimated me for the last time." As I walked out, Marcus called after me. "I really did love you." At the end, that was real. I paused at the door. Maybe it was. But you know what's funny, Marcus? Even if that's true, it doesn't matter. Because you taught me something valuable. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't just destroying someone's plans. It's letting them realize, too late, exactly what they lost. The door closed behind me with a soft click. 6 months later, I stood in Raphael's office as a junior partner, having just won a case involving international marriage fraud. My Portuguese had proven invaluable, my strategic thinking even more so. My phone buzzed. An email from Marcus's former business partner, David, asking if I'd consult on their restructured Brazilian expansion. With real connections this time, through legitimate channels I'd helped establish. Another message, this one from an unknown number. Just 2 words. I'm sorry. I deleted it without responding. Through the window I could see the city spreading below, full of possibility and second chances. Somewhere out there, Marcus was rebuilding from the ruins of his deception. His mother had cut him off, Patricia had moved on, and his reputation in tech circles was destroyed. I'd gotten everything I wanted: vindication, compensation, and the satisfaction of watching his carefully planned betrayal turn into his own destruction. But more than that, I'd gotten myself back. Not the simple, sweet Bella he'd created. Not the underestimated girlfriend playing dumb. Just Isabela Santos, exactly as I'd always been. Brilliant, multilingual, and finally done playing roles for men who couldn't see past their own assumptions. My phone rang. Luana asking about dinner plans. Absolutely, I answered. I'm done for the day. And Luana? This time, we celebrate in Portuguese. After all, I'd spent 3 years hiding who I really was. I was done hiding. The end up next. You've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.